Alright, so Max, you mentioned that fear itself has actually three layers. I was kind of hoping if you can go a little more into detail about that.
Now, there's three levels of fear. The three levels of fear on which they try to push you into a passive relationship with fear. Okay, those three levels are: number one, psychological; number two, emotional; and number three, physical. The psychological level of fear is our very, very core of what has happened to us when we were kids, what traumatic experiences we had, not even just when we were kids, but it's mostly from our childhood experiences. But anything that's a specifically harsh rejection, your divorce, when your last girlfriend cheated on you, okay? That is the psychological level of fear. The easiest way to discover what kind of fear there is on a psychological level, or fears there are, is think about any experience that you had, particularly bad experiences. And if you still have an emotional response just by thinking about it, you haven't fully processed it. If you think back to your ex-girlfriend and you start shivering, you get angry, right? You start thinking about that guy that hit you in the face once in the club, and you get angry, and you're starting to play that scene out in your brain again, like, oh, he hit me first. No, I should have done this, and then I took his head and go in this choke jiu-jitsu, and then bam, bam. That way would have won. If you have that feeling, you haven't fully processed it. How to process that? It's a long process, but you need to work on that. One of the best things to process that is you meditate on it. Okay, when we breathe in, take it all in and accept it, and then upon breathing out, you let go. Here's how I did it. When I first started facing fear, when I started in game, it was very important for me to accept that first, because every young guy has that like wrong egoic false layer over their very core, and that layer is like, oh, I'm cool. Like if I put an actual effort in it, I would probably be good with girls, right? Tyler actually says there's two big lies guys tell themselves. That's that they could get a girl and that they could win a fight. So the first thing that I did when I started game is I tapped into my very core, and I'm like, I'm bad. I'm really bad with girls. I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's cool. And that's okay. I'm a chode. Breathe in. I'm a chode. That's okay. Girl broke my heart and I feel less like a man. And that's okay. Meditate on that. Fix that on a psychological level. That is one of the three levels of fear. Psychological. Breathe it in, accept it, and go from that. You might have to experiment a long time with that until it starts working. It might work earlier depending on how harsh that experience was, right? How traumatic that experience was. It could take a while, but might as well start now. Level number two is the emotional level of fear. That is basically how we respond. What kind of emotions are being triggered when we're having an emotional response to that. The perfect example is Viktor Frankl. Okay, Viktor Frankl, if you want to do it in German. He's an Austrian psychotherapist, and I think he was also a neurologist, and he was also a survivor of the Holocaust. If you don't know what the Holocaust is, they were basically trying to kill all Jews. No, he's Jewish, and they deported him into a concentration camp. And he wrote a book about that, something extremely profound, and it deals with just that. The emotional level of fear and how we choose to respond. Not how we respond, but how we can choose to respond. And I'm going to read out a very interesting quote by him that will basically break this down very precisely. And he said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." The entire book, which is something I highly recommend, the entire book is about his Holocaust experience, how they killed, murdered, humiliated people around him on a daily basis, and how he managed to survive by choosing what emotional response he has to that very, very traumatic experience. And last but not least, the third level is physical. It's almost like fear is going through those phases. You have the psychological fear deep within you. It responds with emotions, and last but not least, it has an effect on your body language, on your physical well-being. Best example is, you see an attractive girl, she's just your type, she's walking down the street. Boom, your senses are picking that up, and you have your psychological level of fear starting winding up, like, oh, she looks just like the ex-girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. You have an emotional response to it. You're like, I'm afraid, this is not good, flight or fight response. And now you have a physical response to that as well. You're tensing up in your body language, your heart rate starts going faster, you might start sweating, right? Your vision might get blurry depending on how harsh of a response that is. That is how fear works. And interestingly enough, right now I said psychological and emotional levels have an effect on the physical level, but here's the trick. The physical level has just as much of an effect on the emotional and the psychological level. Ain't that interesting? For example, body language. If you're sitting in a classroom all contracted like this, you're not going to be able to feel good. If you change that simple stance from this to this, doesn't matter how much stress you feel at least a little bit better.
All right, thanks for the info, Max. And I know you have to leave soon, so I was kind of wondering, like, if there's like anything you would recommend for my viewers and for me myself as well.
Of Fearless, the approach anxiety buster. Now, whatever your fear is, I'm afraid of getting rejected. I'm afraid of approaching that very attractive girl. I'm afraid of running out of things to say. I'm afraid of that other guy she's here with. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. I'm afraid of the other people that are gonna judge me. I'm afraid I'm a loser. I'm inexperienced. Whatever it is, Fearless is gonna help you conquer that very fear.
All right, Fearless. For my viewers watching this video, I'm gonna have a link to the course in the description below. First link. Even if you're not planning on buying the course, I at least recommend you check out the website, because Max has 5 free videos, which in itself, these 5 videos can change your life. And if you experience change after these 5 videos, I highly recommend you buy the program. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.